going to hit record before I forget. Welcome everybody. We will give it a couple minutes to get everyone into the webinar. Please feel free to use the chats, comments, maybe what program you are in, what school you're in, where you're joining from. I'm going to take the opportunity to change my name because my name is not Devont. But please feel free while we're waiting, introduce yourself in the chats, what you're studying, what school you go to, where you're joining us from this evening or this afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. I'm sure we have a few graduates here. I know that college graduation has been this week, so congratulations if we have any recent graduates in the chats. All right. If you're just joining us, we're just giving it a couple minutes to let everybody in before we get started. Hello, everyone. From Fanshawe College, welcome. Lambton College in Toronto, Advanced Healthcare Leadership, amazing. Thompson Rivers University, Master of Education, very cool. Medical Office Assistant at Trios. Recent graduate at Centennial College, congratulations. Exciting. Awesome. Thanks for joining, everyone. We've got another one from Fanshawe. Awesome. Yes, congratulations to all the recent graduates. Now the job search starts. Another from Fanshawe. Completed an internship. Ooh, very cool. Graduate of Loyalist College. Nice. More Fanshawe. Conestoga. Awesome.
Perfect.
Ooh, Boston. Very cool. All right. Shall we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for typing in the chat and sharing your program, where you're located, what you graduated in. Amazing. And thank you for joining this Wednesday evening. So we'll be going over a few tips and tricks on finding a job in Canada. Please feel free to continue to introduce yourself in the chat. If you feel comfortable, you're more than welcome to share the link to your LinkedIn profile as well, as we really want to encourage networking as well throughout the hour that we have together. So I will go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Tiffany. I've worked with Devont for about 1.5 years so far, facilitating workshops, meeting.
Tiffany, your audio cut out mid-sentence.
Oh, that's so strange. Okay, yeah. Is it okay now?
Is everyone else have just on my end? Is it me?
I think you froze for a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you froze, but it was
No,
me with my
I
internet.
think
Okay,
no
sorry. Go
problem,
ahead.
no problem. Let me know. Yeah, let me know if it happens again. Um, yeah, I've worked with Devont for about 1.5 years so far. Um, a lot of the work that I've done is employment related, so lots of counseling, resume tailoring support, mock interviews if you have any interviews coming up, and even just any general check-ins. As we know, job searching is not necessarily the easiest task to be given. So it's always helpful to have someone to brainstorm with, bounce ideas off of, come up with new strategies together. How do you get some interviews? How do you get some offers? So yeah, thank you so much for joining. And I will go over and hand it to Keelan.
Thanks, Tiffany. Hey, everybody. My name is Keelan Stechy. I am a career coach, and also during the day, I'm actually a student advisor at Fleming College. I have been with Devont since about 2021 as a workshop facilitator and as a career coach. Similar as Tiffany, we can help with things like resumes, interviews, job searching, salary negotiation, networking, all of that super exciting stuff that comes with the job search. And yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about job searching in Canada. Please feel free. I see a lot of you are already using the chat, so please feel free to use the chat, communicate with us. It helps us know what to talk about if you kind of give us an idea of like what you're studying, what type of job you're looking for, things like that.
Perfect. Thank you. And fun fact, Keelan and I were students together at George Brown College. We completed the career development practitioner program together. Now we work together. So,
Yay. And I think
um,
2020, right? Is when we graduated.
yeah,
Does that sound
2020. Yeah,
right?
it was a long time ago. We actually were in school when we switched from in person to fully remote education. So that was definitely an interesting experience. So moving on, Keelan went over a few house rules. So everyone is muted right now. If you do want to unmute yourself, please raise your hand or type in the chat, and we can always unmute your mic. If you are someone who prefers to have your video off, by all means, you can leave it off. This session is also being recorded, so you will be receiving this, I believe, through email, probably within the week. For questions, please use the Q&A. As you notice in the chat, lots of comments and links sometimes tend to get lost. However, with the Q&A, we have them stationed in one spot, and we can even view the history of questions that we answered. So if any comments, concerns, questions come up, please ensure that you are using the Q&A. We will also be going over future events that are coming up, and you can also find them listed on our website as well. So just a little bit about Devant. They have supported over 55,000 international students with getting hired and job search support in Canada. So they provide free, actionable advice from career coaches and industry experts uh, that, during like whether it be in person or live events. Devant was one of the first organizations that I was aware of that really integrated the use of AI within their services. So whether that be your resume, interview skills, or any research that you're planning on doing on the labor market. They also have events where they do introduce you to employer partners. They have events on immigration, as we know, with lots of changes with work permits, IRCC. So it's always helpful to attend those sessions if you have questions. And they also offer support and events related to academic life and you all that are here right now, as you know. So this is related to career development. So let's get into some of the content. So understanding the employer. So of course, the main goal of the employer is to make money and run a successful organization. I think if any of us decided to start a business, I believe our main source of motivation would be having a reliable source of income. So we want to think from the employer's perspective when they're doing their hiring. They want to find qualified candidates quickly and effectively. So they are really looking to find someone who can benefit the organization, the company, the department. Um, Even if you have a referral, again, they're going to hire you if they feel like you're a good fit for the company, whether that be culturally, um, company wise in terms of their culture that they have, or the qualifications that you come with. They're going to take a look at your technical skills, your experience as well. So when you are applying for jobs, a few questions that you may want to keep in the back of your mind is, why should the employer hire you? How will the company benefit from having you as an employee? And what's in it for them? So from now a recruiter's perspective, um, HR, talent management, talent acquisition. There are tons of different titles that they can go by. So some employers do use recruiters to find, screen, and interview applicants for open positions within their company. So recruiters will review resumes, they will conduct job interviews, and find an employee for the position. And sometimes they may be there throughout the onboarding process, throughout the interview process to support. And basically, the main goal of the recruiter is to find the perfect fit for the role that they've been hired to fill. So they're going to look for someone who has the best skills, the best experience, and then also that you're a good fit. So we talked about that culture, lots of organizations, depending on your industry and background, um, will kind of operate differently in that way. Do you all sit together at lunch? Do you kind of go into your own cubicles and mind your own business? So just little things like that. Do you go out for lunch together, dinners together, or drinks after work? So it really depends, if you see yourself doing that at that organization. So, just breaking down the hiring process in Canada or anywhere else, to be quite honest, the first part that we all go through, and this wasn't as popular before, is ATS resume screening. So, if you are not aware of what ATS stands for, it stands for Applicant Tracking System. So, a long, long time ago, this was unheard of because employers and recruiters were not receiving the volume of applications that they are now receiving. So there are tons of different softwares out there. You may not necessarily know which one the employer is using to screen resumes, which is why resume tailoring is so important. So that's the first step. So once you submit your application, once you send it over to the employer, it's not even being viewed by an actual human right away. It's being run through the software to see if your resume is even a good fit. Are the keywords that were mentioned in the job posting in your resume. So that's the first step. Second, once you have made it through that kind of initial screening process, the recruiter or the employer will have a smaller stack of resumes to review. And then those candidates are the ones who have basically been shortlisted for the next step. So after that, I do find initially you might get a phone call. So just be prepared for that. If I read this thing where it's like, if you don't think you can answer, you're not in the correct environment, maybe you're picking your kids up from school, maybe you're in class, maybe you are at work at the moment, please let it go to voicemail and then return the call when you have the capacity to do so. And maybe you applied for this job 2 months ago and they finally called you back. It also gives you some time to go back and review the job description, review the resume that you submitted. So usually I find that it is a phone call, or you might receive an email asking for your availability to phone you. After that, well, I didn't talk about the interview. That's also a part of it. So once you have that initial pre-screening, depending on the organization, you may have a couple interviews. I've seen people go for third round interviews sometimes. So it kind of increases in terms of like level of management every time you make it past a round of interviews. Once you're successful, they have background checks. So if you have not touched base with your references in a long time, I highly recommend just sending them a message. You'd be surprised at how people receive just a random message sometimes. They may think, what is it that he needs or what is it that she needs? And they're kind of anticipating that, that question or that request to come in. But if you genuinely have a good relationship with a previous employer, a previous colleague, or manager, it's always helpful to nurture that relationship. Save it in your calendar, save it in your phone somewhere, touch base with Bob once a month, or touch base with Bob, every 2 months, or save his birthday in your phone, whatever you have to do. I do find those things go a really long way. And if you're connected with them on LinkedIn, LinkedIn sometimes lets you know their birthdays. So it's a very small thing. It doesn't cost you anything, but I do find it's always helpful to stay in contact with your references, because it really does pay off because you need them to say good things about you, to be honest. Um, After you are successful in the interview, your references said amazing things about you, you will then be receiving your offer of employment. So that is where we're hoping that all of you will be at, all you recent grads who are applying. We really want to get you to the fifth stage. Once you've signed your offer, you have received your official start date, you have the onboarding process. One thing that I always share with my clients is that no matter what job you do, there's always going to be training involved, to familiarize yourself with their software, to familiarize yourself with the tools that they use. Maybe they use Slack, maybe they use Teams, maybe whatever the case may be. There's always going to be some form of training. So please keep that in mind when you're applying for roles. If you feel, oh, I am not, too skilled in this, or I have these 7 things, but I don't have these 2 things. Please make sure that you're still applying for the job anyways, and that's where tailoring comes in, to really showcase that you have the skills and you have the capacity to learn, as well. So I will go ahead, and pass it over to my colleague Keelan. I haven't had a look at the chat yet,
There
but
is
I'm
one
hoping.
question for you, Tiffany.
Oh,
It's a
perfect. Yeah.
Q&A. It's about ATS. No surprise
Okay.
there. We know that the ATS can be intimidating.
Mhm.
How can I pass the ATS step easily? What keywords are important to include in my application?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So honestly, I don't know about it being easy, to be honest with you. Tailoring a resume does involve extra time on the job seeker's end. So maybe this means instead of applying for 20 jobs a week, you apply for 10 jobs a week, but you spend that extra time really analyzing the job description. In terms of keywords that are important, it depends on the job description or the industry that you're coming from. So, one tip that I always share, and one thing that I always notice, is that clients have a tendency to only update the work experience. So they might just change a few words here and there, but the summary of qualifications or the highlight of qualifications is just as important. So if you notice in the posting, they have, organized, punctual, helpful, initiative, all those keywords, and put them into your resume. If you notice that there's a word that is mentioned several times throughout the job description, then we have then been given the okay to also use that word a few times in our resume to increase our chances of making it past the ATS. So that's what I've noticed nowadays. The trend is really trying to focus on the tailoring, because your resume is kind of like that ticket to get you to the interview. So trial and error. Try something out for 1 month, be consistent, see how it's working for you. Are you noticing more traction? Are you getting more responses? If not, then let's go back to the drawing board and try something else out. I'll try to find a link for a website. Um, it's called Word something. I'll input it in the chat. And basically what you do is you copy a job description, you paste it into this text box, and it will generate words that show up the most, like throughout the posting. And those words will show up and they will be a little bit bigger. So for example, if SQL is mentioned a whole ton of times, if Organized is mentioned a whole ton of times. Those words will be highlighted and they will be a little bit bigger compared to other words. So it kind of helps us have a visual as to what words we could use. There's also a website called JobScan where you upload your job description for the role you would like to apply for, as well as your tailored resume, and it will generate something called a match rate. I usually recommend 70 to 80%, which is pretty high, which is why you may not be applying for as many jobs because you're focused on hitting that percentage to take you to the next round. So I hope that helps. If you have any more questions, please feel free to input them in the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Tiffany. We did have a follow-up.
Mhm.
Can AI decode the ATS? And I think with this, you're asking, like, can we use AI to help? And absolutely. Don't be afraid of using AI to make your job search a little bit easier. I'm sure Tiffany has some tips on this as well, but even just copying and pasting a job description into ChatGPT and saying, like, I'm applying for this job. What keywords should I be sure to include in my resume? And then copy and paste the job posting, and it will come up with suggestions on keywords to include. Um, Very similar to what Tiffany was saying, like it'll help pull out the keywords that are repeated in it. But yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid of using AI for the job search, especially when it comes to things like pulling out those keywords and kind of thinking about your resume in a different way when you're applying to different types of jobs. Awesome. Okay. So I am going to hop over. Ooh, thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany just posted the job scan in the chat. Job scan is also one of my favorite tools in terms of tailoring your resume to an ATS. And it also lets you know how an ATS scans your resume. It's kind of like an ATS simulator. So if an ATS has any issues reading your resume, JobScan will let you know. So I'm sure you've heard about different formatting tips for ATSs. Some ATSs are very advanced and they can read pretty much any resume. Some of them are a little bit more old school. So like when ATSs first came out, for example, they could only read like Arial and Times New Roman fonts. They couldn't read multiple columns. So most ATSs these days are much more advanced than that, but we still want to make sure that we have like a simply formatted resume. We don't want any like photos or charts or graphs because an ATS is just going to scan those as photos. It's not going to pull out the keywords. But JobScan is a great tool for even just seeing how an ATS is reading your resume and if it's pulling out all of the language. Awesome. Okay, so please feel free to continue using the Q&A, but for now I'm going to hop over. We'll talk about some job boards and then we'll go into LinkedIn and Indeed and actually kind of talk about how to use the job boards and what to type in the search box and things like that. But if you could tell me in the chat to get us started, what types of job boards have you used in your job search so far in Canada, or which ones? Oh no, I almost spoiled it. Ah. What are some of the job boards that you use? LinkedIn and Indeed, absolutely. Those are the two big ones. Glassdoor for sure. I love Glassdoor for employer reviews as well. Monster is a good one. Yeah, Monster was really popular back in the day. It kind of died down a bit, but I think it's coming back because I've heard a lot of people talk about it recently. Workopolis, AG Jobs. I have not heard of that one. That's interesting. Um, but a tip that I always use, Job Bank for sure. A tip that I always like to tell job seekers is that by all means, go on LinkedIn and Indeed because those are by far the most popular job boards. That's where you're going to find the most jobs, but that's also where you're going to find the most competition. And I always tell job seekers that the harder a job is to find, the less competition there's going to be for that job. Like if you have to dig for it a little bit, the fewer applicants you will be competing against. Versus on LinkedIn, where I'm sure you've seen like 300 people have applied for this job in the past 24 hours. because everybody is using LinkedIn. So sometimes it's worth like using some of these smaller job boards that not as many people are using. There may be fewer jobs on it, but there's also fewer job applicants on it. So it can kind of be worth it. So most of you, we got most of these. Most of you in the chat got a lot of these. We got Indeed, LinkedIn, Canada Job Bank, someone said that, Workopolis, Monster, Glassdoor. Charity Village is a really good one. Charity Village is a website specifically for the not-for-profit sector. So if you're somebody who's interested in working for nonprofits, Charity Village is a great website. It's also very good for volunteering opportunities as well. So if you're looking for just some experience to put on a resume and you're interested in doing some volunteering, Charity Village is a great website for that. Aluda is another one that used to be very, very popular. Job Boom, even just Google. So I'm sure you've seen that if you go on Google and you type in like web developer jobs, it'll pull from different job boards for its Google for jobs. So that can be an easy way of kind of scanning a variety of different job boards at once. Company websites is also one of my favorite places to apply for jobs. Some companies just do not like to post on job boards. Some companies don't like to post on Indeed or LinkedIn because they get like 1,000 applications and maybe 20 of those people are qualified. So I've spoken to employers that just they don't think applying or they don't think posting on Indeed or LinkedIn is worth it. So they just post on their company website. Also, posting on a company website is free for an employer. They don't have to pay a third party for it. So always check out company websites. If there's a company that you're really interested in working for, keep an eye on the company website, on their careers page. Maybe like bookmark it and check it once a week. And this could also be a great tip, like I said, fewer people are seeing that job, so there's less competition. I find this is especially popular for very big companies, like huge organizations, as well as like post-secondary institutions, banks, but some smaller companies too, they just don't want to pay a third party to have to post a job posting. And then there's also niche industry job boards. So for example, there's Hire Authority, which is just HR positions. There's, I think it's called, I think it's even just called like jobs in medicaljobs.ca or something. It's jobs in like healthcare. So there's a lot of different just niche job boards. So you can even just go on Google and type in like healthcare job boards Canada, and a bunch of niche industry job boards that are just for your industry will come up. Okay. So now I'm going to hop over to LinkedIn quickly, and we will actually go through the LinkedIn job board feature and maybe some of like the hidden features that you're not too familiar with. I'm sure everybody knows how to just go on the job board, so I'll kind of do some more hidden features of LinkedIn. Give me 1 second. And yes, I saw someone in the chat ask if they could connect. Please feel free to connect with Tiffany and me on LinkedIn. All right, so before I hop over the job board, I wanted to show you kind of a hidden feature of LinkedIn. If we go to the My Network tab at the top here, LinkedIn's recently added a new section that's called Catch Up. Oh, I see all you requesting me, amazing. But we can go to the Catch Up tab, and this is a really great way to keep in touch with your network, like Tiffany was saying at the beginning, especially people that you want to use as references. So it kind of like gives you suggestions and excuses for messaging people. So for example, I could message Melissa and say, congratulations on your new job at RecoverCan Inc. I could message Esther and say, congratulations on your 2-year work anniversary at Infotech Research Group. It'll tell you when it's like people's birthdays, work anniversaries, when they've gotten new jobs, things like that. So it's really just like a good excuse to keep in touch with people and to message people. So keep an eye on this catch up tab if you are looking to just keep in touch with your network. Okay, now we'll go to the job boards. So this is LinkedIn Jobs. Can somebody in the chat give me any industry, any job title? Can be something that you're looking for. It could just be the first job that comes to mind, just that we can use as an example. Any job title. Supply chain. Okay, the first one I saw was supply chain. So let's do supply chain. And I'm going to keep it for Canada for now. This is sometimes the issue with LinkedIn. It can be very overwhelming because it's one of the most popular job boards. You type in supply chain and you get 10,000 results, which is very overwhelming to filter through those. So what I usually do is, first of all, we can narrow down our search. So let's do Greater Toronto Area, for example, just to narrow it down. So it takes us from 10,000 to 2,000, which is a little bit more reasonable, but it's still overwhelming. So what I usually do is I filter next by date posted. So I actually usually do past week or even past 24 hours if we're checking every day. But because this is a new search for me, I'm just going to do past week. I like to apply for jobs as soon as they become available. The reason is because the sooner you apply for a job after it's been posted, the better chances of your resume being seen. Some companies will keep a job posting up for over a month, and they may even be in third round interviews. And if you're applying for a job and they already have people in the interview process, they're not going to go back to the beginning to start interviewing somebody new when they already have 3 people in the pipeline. So I always recommend apply for the job as soon as it becomes available, apply as soon as you can. I even sometimes filter by past 24 hours if you're searching every day. Keep an eye on the job board every day. You don't have to apply for something every single day, but it's always good to just have it open and check it. Keep it in your bookmarks, open it daily, just to see what's out there and to see if anything new has been posted. And that way you can apply as soon as possible. Another thing that I like to do is we can go through all filters and you can see a lot of filter options just to narrow down. And one that I like to use, where is it? In your network. So I really like this feature. So if I turn on in my network and I click show 73 results, this is showing me jobs where people in my LinkedIn network already work. So for example, there's one at the University of Toronto and I have 7 connections that work here. So I can click this job, I can take a look at the types of people in my network that work here, and I can say, oh, I know Samantha, I went to school with her, I'm gonna send her a message and see if I can get any details about this position before I apply, or see if I can get an internal referral or ask if they have any tips to tailor my resume to make sure I get an interview. So that can be a really cool feature of LinkedIn, one that not a lot of people know about. You can see that sometimes, for example, this transportation specialist one in Burlington, I don't have any direct, oh, I do have direct connections that work here. But you'll also see sometimes it'll say like 55 school alumni work here. So that'll be people where I can click and say, oh, we went to the same school. I know we don't know each other, but I see that you also graduated from George Brown. I see that you work at this company. Ask them some questions about it. It just kind of gives you something in common for you to start that conversation and to have that connection. And when you're one of 100 people who have applied for this job in the past 6 days, if you can kind of reach out to somebody who works at that company to get your foot in the door, to help get your resume seen, those are the types of things that we need to do in this very competitive labor market. Another thing I want to point out quickly is that a lot of people get intimidated by this. So they'll say over 100 people clicked apply in the past 6 days. But all they've done is click apply. So I'm sure if I click apply here, it's going to ask me some follow-up questions. It's then going to take me to a third-party website. So now I'm on the UPS Jobs website. I have to submit my application, etc. But because I clicked applied, it's now going to count me as one of the 100 people who clicked apply, even though I did not apply for that job. All I did was click apply. So this is sometimes misleading and inflated compared to the number of people who have actually submitted applications. And probably a handful of those people are actually qualified for the position. So don't get too hung up on this. I would worry more about the 6 days ago. So, like I said, try to apply in less than a week. But like as soon as you can get your resume in there, I would submit it just to make sure you have a better chance of your resume getting seen. It'll be at the top of the pile. It'll be one of the first ones that the recruiter or HR looks at, and overall, you'll just have a better chance of getting an interview. All right, any questions about LinkedIn? I'm gonna move over to Indeed. But if there are questions, I can hop back. Indeed is also very, very similar. We can search by keyword, job title, company, city, province, remote. So I'm going to do keyword this time. So can somebody give me a keyword in the chat? So like a key skill in your job search. So not a job title, more something like Microsoft Word or like HTML or Excel, like a skill. Yes, so someone said Excel. Let's do that. So let's say I'm like an Excel wizard. I am so good at Excel. That is not true. But let's pretend. So I'm going to put Excel and let's do Toronto again. This is a really good tip to find jobs that might be a little bit more hidden. So for example, if I'm coming on here and I'm only typing in web developer, I might be missing jobs that are called software engineer or like web specialist or something. Like sometimes different jobs just have, or different companies just have different job titles. And if we're only searching web developer, we might be missing out on jobs that are as a web developer, but just have a different job title. So if we use skills and keywords instead, you see this is bringing up things like document coordinator, dispatcher, team lead, social worker, shipper, supervisor. So these are all jobs that require Excel. So if you're really, really good at something, using it as a skill is sometimes more helpful. If I do JavaScript, for example, in Toronto, you'll see that I'll come up with different job titles. So I'm coming up with software developer, full stack developer, UI developer, DevOps engineer, CC plus 3D graphics engineer. And these are probably jobs that aren't going to show up if I'm simply just searching for web developer. So sometimes using keywords or skills can bring up different job titles that we maybe not wouldn't have thought of. Again, I like to filter down by last like 3 days even, or last 24 hours if you're actively keeping an eye on the job boards. And something that I really like about Indeed is you can click on the company page. So for example, I can click on Vonality. It's gonna bring me to verifying that I am a human. But now we can look at reviews for this company. So this one actually doesn't have a lot of reviews, so I would be suspicious of this, and I would probably go and Google this company to make sure it actually exists. But if we find one that might have some more reviews, so eBay, for example, let me click on eBay. I can now look at over 2,000 anonymous reviews of people who actually work at eBay, just to kind of get a sense of what the company is like. This person gave it a poor review. Maybe I want to read that. Maybe I want to look if there's any red flags. I can also go to the questions tab. Let's say I really, really want to work at eBay, but I'm wondering about their holiday leave policy. So you can actually ask questions anonymously, and you can look at the answers of people who actually work at eBay. So that can be a really cool one as well. Glassdoor also has this feature, which is another great website you can use for company reviews and asking questions and things like that. The keyword filter, so it's not actually a filter, you just use the search box. So you can use the search box for job titles, keywords, companies, skills. It's not a specific filter, it's just, you just type it in the search box. But sometimes there are different filters. So for example, I can filter it by like programming language, and I can select all of the languages that I know how to use, and then it will give me jobs with the languages that I've selected. Indeed's really user friendly that way. So for example, this programming language filter is coming up because I put in web developer, but if I put in something else, like somebody said accountant, I will get different types of filters. So awesome. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go over this chat. Tiffany, do we have any questions?
Yes, we have a few things in the Q&A. I did notice a few questions that were specifically focused on the agriculture business in Canada. And to be quite honest with you, that is an area that I am not too versed in. I would have to do a little bit of research to educate myself on what the demands are, what it's looking like for us in the next few years. I do, and I recently did this because I am supporting clients in Nova Scotia, and I'm based in Ontario. So I had to learn what the labor market was like in terms of tech, in terms of data analyst roles. StatsCan has been one of the most reliable websites and resources to me. So even if you just go on there, you type in the province, you type the city in, and the role that you're seeking, it will give you data and stats and information and graphs on exactly what it is that you're looking for. And, I would just say no matter what industry that you're in, please prioritize networking. People leave jobs all the time, people go on maternity leave, people retire, people switch companies. So somehow there's always going to be an opening available, but we just want to ensure that we know how to take advantage of that. Because it is tough all around. But yeah, agriculture, I have not supported anyone within that industry, so I would definitely want to do some research before I begin that. We have another question here about why is medical office assistant or admin assistant within the healthcare industry so difficult? So I know admin is a very popular field of work that lots of people look to get in. So again, I think it's just a matter of competition. It's a matter of, it could be down to the smallest thing. To be honest, I've seen that where employers have two amazing candidates. And it really comes down to the nitty-gritty. It comes down to the interview. Maybe one person has an additional certification that the other person doesn't have. So all of those things are factors when employers are making that decision. But if you notice that you're not getting any responses, you're not getting any phone calls, and you're mostly getting rejections, then that tells me we need to go back to your resume um, and tweak it up a little bit. Another question is if only if we only have general labor jobs, then what kinds of words we can use in our resume for skilled jobs? So there's always going to be a way for us to kind of maneuver around this. Maybe you could talk about communicating with staff members. You can communicate, speaking with, I don't know, truckers who come in, or people who are in shipping and receiving, people who are in accounting. I'm not too sure in terms of general labor exactly what it is that you're doing. But just try to think outside of the box. Try to keep track of the responsibilities that you do. Utilize AI in this case, right? Say, this is my job description. How can I tweak this or how can I change this? And don't copy and paste it directly, but you're more than welcome to use that as some inspiration and to kind of get things flowing so you have an idea as to how you can word your responsibilities moving forward. We have another question about LinkedIn Premium. Is it worth it? I think the good old ordinary LinkedIn um, does what it's supposed to. Um, if you are someone who's a bit nosy and you've been consistently applying for jobs, you want to know if an employer has been creeping your profile, they've been checking you out, then that's the only time I would say LinkedIn has been really beneficial for me personally, LinkedIn Premium, just to see if they've looked at your profile. Um, you also have something called in-mail credits, where you can message someone directly without being connected to them. However, if you send them an invite and they accept it, you do not need to use any in-mail credits. So honestly, there isn't a whole lot that I notice in terms of benefits. It's just if you want to know if anyone has looked at your profile. I know sometimes if you start clicking around and you have like an offer show up, they may offer LinkedIn Premium to you for free for a month, for 3 months. I've seen that come up. And then when you go to cancel or they try to get you to subscribe, that's when they will kind of get you to pay for it. So sometimes they give you a free trial. You're more than welcome to test it out yourself, see if it's something you're willing to invest in, but it's not necessarily a requirement for your job search. Next here, having networking or word by mouth apply for a job. So I'm assuming the question is asking if networking is better compared to applying for a job online. I think they go hand in hand, to be honest. A reference or a referral to a job opportunity goes a very long way. So if you are looking to have your resume kind of taken to the top of the pile, that's when that reference or that referral would come in extra handy. So that's why we really want to encourage you to foster and build out the rapport with any individuals that you know, even if you don't know them. This is something that I still do personally on LinkedIn. If I'm in the mood or I'm looking to network, I'm looking to familiarize myself with what's changing in the industry. I will search for a job title of a role that I'm interested in or a role that I'm currently in, and I will connect with people, and then I will send them kind of a little bit of a generic message. But we never want it to seem, if we're reaching out to someone, that, hey, I'm reaching out to you, here's my resume for this job. We always kind of want to get to know them a little bit, build out that relationship a little bit more before we make any requests or have any demands that we're looking for. Any legit site for remote jobs? I have a bias. I really love LinkedIn. So even if you type in your job title, and I think you can sign up for job alerts, you can type in hybrid, you can type in remote, and that way you will ensure that you are receiving those types of jobs. Besides the importance of a connection or referral, are there any tips for a fresh graduate to step into legal or law related market, as most of the jobs require 3 years? Um, so beside the importance of a connection or referral, I'm not too sure because I think that's where a lot of opportunity lies. Unless you are really good at tailoring your resume and the employer can look past, okay, you may not have 3 years of experience, but you come with all of the other requirements that we're looking for. There's always a little bit of wiggle room in terms of requirements. That's kind of like their wish list, is how I look at it. So if you find you're meeting, 70% of what they're looking for, I would still encourage you to apply. But even after you submit your application, it's always great to go onto LinkedIn to see if you can find an employee who works there that you could reach out to, or someone from the HR or recruiting department. From what I've heard, it shows initiative, it shows interest, that you're willing to go that extra step to find them on LinkedIn, reach out to them, let them know you're interested. But if we are going to do that, we want to make sure our LinkedIn profiles are up to date. Profile picture, headline, summary, up to date work experience as well. And that you're also active on there, right? So you're liking, you're commenting, and just having a very engaged profile. Should we reach out to the recruiter on LinkedIn before the interview? So if you have the capacity to do so, I usually do recommend that. Just flagging your own application, right? Hey, my name's Kenny. I just applied for a data analyst role at Rogers. I'm really interested in working with your organization, and you can kind of take it from there. Um, I do think it makes you stand out, especially in this market, where we do kind of have to do a little bit more than we normally would to ensure that we are hearing back from them. Perfect.
Yay. Okay, we have about like less than 10 minutes left. So let me hop over back to the slides. And they talk about networking, which I think is a good segue because a lot of the questions were about networking as well, or a lot of our answers were about networking. Networking is often a solution. I know you don't want to hear that because a lot of people do not like networking. But especially in a very competitive labor market, networking is going to be key. So question, what percentage of available positions do you think are filled by somebody that is in the hiring manager or the recruiter's network? So throw out a guess. What percentage? 7 out of 10, so like 70%, okay. Any other guesses? So if 80%, 80%, okay. So it's around 85. But yeah, I've seen studies say it's as low as 70. I've seen studies say it's as high as 90%. But yeah, I would say like around the 80, 85% mark are filled by somebody in the hiring manager or the recruiter's network. And this makes a lot of sense if we think about it. So let's say I am an employer. I am the lead of a department and I need to hire somebody for my team. I post a job on LinkedIn, and in the first week, I get 500 applicants. And I am super overwhelmed looking at these 500 resumes. A lot of the people aren't qualified. A lot of the people live super far away and they've just applied for this job because it came up on their LinkedIn. Some people are just sending me resumes that have nothing to do with the job posting. I'm overwhelmed. I can't look at all these resumes. And then Tiffany, who works for me in this pretend scenario, comes up to me and says, "Hey, Keelan, I have a really good friend who I worked with at a previous role who I think would be a great fit for this position. Do you want to take a look at her resume?" Right away, I'm going to be biased towards this person because I know Tiffany, I trust Tiffany. Tiffany's on my team, I know she's a good worker, and she is telling me that she is recommending somebody. So, because I know that Tiffany's a great employee, I automatically assume that this person is going to also be a great employee. So, it makes sense that employers tend to hire people that are in their network or people in their network can recommend. So this is why a referral, an internal referral, even just like good word of mouth can really help you get that interview. Some companies have a policy where if a employee that already works for them refers somebody, they're guaranteed an interview. So networking referrals are a great way to get your foot in the door and just get yourself ahead of all of those people who are applying blind. Tiffany, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add in. I know you mentioned the interview part, but there are also incentives sometimes. If an employer or an employee successfully refers someone and they make it past the interview stages, they've passed their probationary period, that employee may get a couple $100. So in this economy, who doesn't need some extra cash? So that's also another way to kind of leverage the whole networking and referral process. But again, make sure your LinkedIn profiles are up to date. Make sure you're presenting well, professionally as well when you're making these attempts. So I've worked for a few companies in the past where that has happened. Someone referred me to my current company and they got some money for referring me after I made it past my probation. So that's always another way to really, really take advantage of the referral process, and really goes back to the importance of networking. Because when you're hired there, maybe you can also keep your eye out for someone who you think would be a good fit for a role. But yeah, just had to throw that in.
Oh, absolutely. All right. So when we think about networking, we've already talked about LinkedIn. I also really want to quickly talk about informational interviews because they have worked for me in the past. An informational interview is basically reaching out to somebody who works in the industry that you want to work in. So somebody said they were looking for a job in the legal industry. So you can use LinkedIn. You can find people who work in the legal industry in your town or in your city. Reach out to them, say, hey, I'm so and so. I'm a recent graduate. I'm looking for a job in the legal industry. Would you be open to having a 15-minute phone call with me? Or would you be open to meeting for coffee so I can ask you some questions about the industry? So it's basically you interviewing somebody who has the job that you want to have. And the purpose of an informational interview is to not get a job right away, but to make a networking connection with somebody who can mentor you, who can help you, and who may be able to refer you for something down the line. So I actually got my very first career coach job through an informational interview. So when I was still in school studying career coaching, I did an informational interview with somebody who was already like 10 years into their career coaching career. And after I graduated, it was maybe about 6 months after the informational interview, I saw that the company this person worked at was hiring. And I reached out to the person and said, hey, remember me? We met for a coffee 6 months ago. I'm going to apply for this job at your company. I just wanted to give you the heads up. Do you have any tips for me? And they were actually able to go to their manager and say, hey, I know Keelan. I met with her a few months ago. She seems really great. And I got an interview from that. So informational interviews are a great way just to build your network, to find somebody in the industry who will root for you, who will mentor you, who will give you tips. And honestly, most people are more than happy to do informational interviews. I know if somebody reaches out to me and wants to have like a 15-minute phone call or Zoom chat or meet for coffee, like I'm flattered every time. I'm like, you want to learn from me? Like, you want to ask me questions? Like, it's a lot of people are more than happy to talk about themselves and their career and to help out somebody looking to get into the industry. All right, it is almost 8 o'clock. So I wanted to flag Devon is hosting an event coming up soon for new graduates. It's called the Graduating Students Career Conference. I will pop the link in the chat for registration. Registration is free. Really, really great way to network. Fantastic way to find people in different industries who work at different companies. Career coaches are also going to be there to answer your questions. So it is Wednesday, June 18th, and it starts at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I will put the registration link in the chat now. Like I said, it is free to register, so there's no cost. Companies like CIBC are going to be there, HP, WSIB. So it'll be a really great networking opportunity. And yes, Tiffany posted, yes, it is online. And Tiffany posted a link in the chat if you would like 1 hour of Tiffany's time or my time. You can actually book through the Devon website. You can book 1 hour of time with one of our career coaches. So if you would like 1 hour of undivided question and answer time, or if you would like a resume review or help with your job search or interviewing, let us know. And we would be happy to meet with you. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. It was lovely chatting with you. Tiffany, it was lovely facilitating with you as always.
Healing.
And feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, and good luck with your job search.
Yes,
Bye.
bye.